we heard it.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Wow, good to be here again. Good to be speaking to you, as well as singing for you and playing for you. So, my talk today is about a subject very near and dear to my heart, and probably to yours too: enlightenment. How many of you would love to be enlightened? Yeah. Well, here's the good news. You already are enlightened. You just don't know it, or you're just not living it. But I know we've all had those glimpses through the keyhole into the next room where we sense there's something bigger than this. There's something bigger than little old needy, angry me. The Buddha said, enlightenment is the end of suffering. Which is an interesting way to state it. By saying what it's not, no suffering, he didn't make it some superhuman goal or achievement to strive for in the future. He also said, the greatest gift you can give the world is to be enlightened. I mean, think about it. If everybody on this planet were enlightened, we wouldn't have wars, we wouldn't need policemen. You know, we would just go about our business in spontaneous right action. Jesus put it this way: to you it has been granted to know the mysteries of the kingdom of heaven. He also said, the kingdom of heaven is at hand, which has often been translated in some Bibles as within. In other words, the kingdom of heaven is not up in the clouds, it's within, it's at hand, it's right here and now. We have some kind of crazy ideas about enlightenment. Maybe we've read a book like Autobiography of a Yogi or something like that, and you know, we read the Bible and we hear about Jesus walking on water and healing the sick and raising the dead and being in two places at once, and we think, oh, that's what it is to be enlightened. Well, that's what it is to be a master, to be an avatar, to be a son or daughter of God. I do believe that is within our human potential, but enlightenment is way before that. Enlightenment is a way of being, here and now, rather than a goal or a set of magical skills to achieve in the future. So cut yourself some slack. It's not as hard as we like to make it out to be. Being here and now is kind of the central focus of not only enlightenment, but of my talk today. In the study of all things spiritual, physical, psychological, philosophical, and metaphysical, being here and now is the absolute linchpin that holds this whole thing together. And it's usually overlooked. But if one gets this, the rest of it falls into place. For example, if you're doing a prayer, the more presence of mind you have on the prayer, the more effective your prayer will be. If you're spacing out or worrying or thinking about, God, I don't know if God hears me, you know, I'm doing this prayer, but nothing's happening, that's a very ineffective way to pray. So as I said earlier, we are already enlightened, we just don't know it yet. There are two illusions that keep us from knowing it, from realizing that light within. They are the egoic mind and the illusion of time, or what I like to call psychological time. I mean, time's a reality. We have a clock on the wall, it's ticking, we can see it moving. But a week ago, it was July 21st, right? And we were all around then. I can tell by the ages of the people here, we were all, I don't see any babies in the audience, we were all around a week ago. And guess what? It was now when we were there on July 21st. It was now when the service started at 10:30. It's always now, no matter where you go, no matter what time it is on the clock or the calendar. But the ego likes to kind of play games with time. Now, what is the ego? Boy, you know, I love the American Heritage Dictionary. This is so succinct and so to the point. The ego is the self as distinguished from all others. In other words, there's me and there's everything else. That's the ego. So the ego is you know, who you are not, but who you think you are. Vernon Howard, one of my favorite metaphysical writers, old school guy from the 60s, he said, you know, when we're babies, we come in here as little sponges of sensory input, learning, taking in. Ever notice how babies like to stick things in their mouth? Because they want to taste it. They're learning. What does this thing taste like? You know? Tastes like plastic. Now I know what this thing tastes like. That's what they do. But what happens is they begin to form memories. We all did this. And the memories start to become beliefs and opinions. And then those group together into what we might call global beliefs. Here's a good one. People are, fill in the blank. People are great. People are wonderful. People are kind. People are amazing. People are stupid. People are mean, cruel, evil. We all have global beliefs, right? And I'll tell you something. The world you live in is a reflection of those beliefs. René Descartes, famous French philosopher, once said, and he's famous for this, "I think, therefore I am." Boy, did he miss the boat. He's equating thinking with being. Later on, a man named Jean-Paul Sartre said, you know, I noticed the other day that I was thinking. Now, what part of me notices that other part of me that's thinking? There's a witnessing presence to my thoughts. We did this during the meditation. You can see yourself think, but what do most people do? They get tugged along by their thoughts as if they just grabbed hold of a speeding train, and they have no power over where those thoughts take them. The mind is a self-protection mechanism. It is there to keep you safe. It tells you things like, ooh, I don't like this guy. He looks like that guy that beat me up in first grade. I mean, I'm not kidding you not. This is the way the mind operates. It's a defense. And you know, when we were living in caves and hunting and gathering, that probably served us pretty well. Ooh, bear, run. You know? I just saw my best friend get eaten by a bear last week. That's not a good thing, bears. So, but here's the thing. We live in a world that is free from those kind of dangers, don't we? And maybe not on the freeway. We've got to pay a little more attention to the crazy people out there. But the ego is a funny little creature, you know. It needs opposition because there's me and there's not me. It needs enemies. And, you know, Wayne Dyer said this beautiful thing, and it was so right on. He said, you know, most people go through life looking for reasons to be offended. That's the ego. It's scanning the horizon for what's wrong with this picture. And the biggest enemy of the ego is the here and now. What's going on right now? I don't like it. I'm not sure what I want, but I'm damn sure this isn't it. That's the way the ego operates. And, you know, the fact that we can laugh about that shows us that there's a higher dimension of consciousness. Some people will go, what do you mean? I don't have that problem. And there's the ego again. We all live with a voice in our head. No, I don't have a voice in my head. What are you talking about? This is what they're thinking, right? So the question then becomes, well, who are you really? Well, we know in this teaching that we're spirit, right? But, you know, that's a nice belief, but what if you could actually sense that? I mean, actually feel it. So I'm going to walk you through a little process here. Okay, now follow me. This is an interesting train of thought. And let's just deal with the physicality of this. We're a physical body, right? Physical body is made up of organs and tissues, and the tissues and organs are made up of cells, and the cells in turn are made up of molecules, which are made up of atoms, which are made up of subatomic particles, and when they hit those in a cyclotron, they break up into bosons and positrons and quarks and neutrinos and all kinds of crazy subatomic particles. But there comes a point, and physics is almost there, where you can't break it up anymore. What do you have then? Do you have nothing? Not exactly, but you have no thing. You have what Deepak Chopra called the field of infinite possibility. What Maharishi Mahesh Yogi called the impersonal aspect of God, Brahman, that which gives rise to everything else. That's what's behind it all. Some particle physicists have noticed in some of their experiments that these particles seem to come out of nowhere and disappear, and then manifest out of nowhere and disappear. Where are they going? Where did they come from? They came from this infinite field of being. And I have a theory, we'll see if they prove this to be correct or not, that we are constantly doing that billions of times per second. Every molecule of our body is coming in and out of manifestation, but it's so fast we can't perceive it. Our senses are not capable of it. So what are we saying here? What we're saying is we are one with God, in fact. We are constantly being remanifested, born again. And we can come to that realization in a feeling way. Now, the second thing that keeps us from knowing our enlightenment is the illusion of time. Now, you know, we have a social contract, right? We all agree. It's 11:06 right now. And of course, we need time measurement to function in our civilization today. We need calendars, we need clocks, we need watches, iPhones, smartphones, appointment books, however you keep track of your schedule. But what most people do is they live in what I like to call psychological time. They're either in the past or they're in the future. If they're living in the past, it's regrets, missed opportunities, resentment, anger over something that happened when they were 7 years old, sadness, anger, and nostalgia for the good old days. Oh, man. How many of you heard about that book, The Good Old Days? They were actually horrible. So it's a really funny book. It's about stuff like before the FDA, people would put plaster of Paris in the milk to whiten it up and stretch it, add a little water, plaster of Paris, shake it up. Here you go, there's a gallon of milk. Yeah. That's what some people do. They live in the past. Some people are living in the future. This manifests as worry. This manifests as anxiety, fear, or that nose to the grindstone determination to complete their goals. Or they're living on that wonderful paradise, that tropical paradise called someday someday I'll get the perfect job and then I'll be okay. Someday I'll make it, I'll be a success, then I'll be great. Someday I'll find the perfect mate or partner and then I'll finally be okay. That's psychological time, living in the past or the future. So where is the past to you? I want everybody to take a moment and point to their past. Where is it? Yeah. For most people, it's behind us, right? Some people still have the old elementary school idea of a timeline. Here's negative numbers, here's 0, here's positive numbers, right? But either way, you have a mental concept of where the past and future are. And if you're on that timeline, 0, future, past, negative numbers, 0 would be the perfect now moment. And here's an interesting thing about that. We think of time as a linear dimension, but it's actually 3-dimensional. There's a vertical line too. And every time you walk, that vertical line goes with you. Every time you go through your day, that vertical line goes with you. That is the dimension of the here and now. And what I would suggest is that we expand that dimension and shrink the past and future dimensions so that we are constantly at the point of the present. Why do we want to do this? Because there is no other time than now. As I said earlier last week, when we were there, it was now. You ever notice no matter where you go, there you are. There you are. You always bring you along with the moment. It is always now. And no matter where you go, no matter what you do, doesn't it make sense to give this moment your full attention? Like Yoda said to Luke Skywalker, never his mind on what he was doing. Take care of the here and now, and the future will take care of itself, and the past will no longer matter. I'm not belittling something that may have been traumatic in your past. That's a fact. And perhaps we need to deal with that. Or perhaps we just need to let it go and get focused on the now. So how do we do that? How do we do that? We did it earlier a little bit. There's actually 7 and perhaps more, but these are the main ones, portals into the here and now. Okay, first thing, and we did this a little earlier, is watching your thoughts. By the very virtue of the fact that you're watching your thoughts as if it was somebody else's thing, you have now moved into the witnessing state of consciousness. You are now doubly aware than if you're in your thoughts being pulled along with them like you just jumped into a raging river. So watch your thoughts, and especially when you feel yourself getting a little bit anxious or angry or upset in any way, shape, or form, you always have a chance to come back around and say, oh, there goes Mr. Ego again. Blah, 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 blah. Look at you. You're kind of funny, you know. That's number 1. Watch your thoughts. Second is, and we did this too, feeling into your body. This really gets you present in a hurry. Start with your hands because they have the most sensitive nerve endings, and you can feel the life force in your hands, that tingling sensation. That's the life that's in your body. Let it fill your entire body and get in touch with that. Third way, and I can see you're all doing this now, active listening. When I listened, like when we were doing the affirmations, I was really practicing this. I was kind of repeating back what was being said in my own head. And the words kind of took on an additional dimension of meaning by doing that. You ever be talking to an old friend or something like that, and all you're really doing is waiting for your turn to talk? You're thinking about what you're going to say, and what they're saying just becomes blah, 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 blah. It's not really getting in. But there's a really interesting thing that happens with good active listening, especially when you're talking to a friend who has a problem and they just want to dump on you, or maybe they're looking for advice but they haven't really said that yet. If you listen and repeat back what they're saying and just really get still and let it go in and let it sort of ruminate around in you, a funny thing will start to happen. You'll begin to come up with really creative things to tell them when the moment is right. But let them expend the energy. Let them get it all out. And then at that point, you will speak with the wisdom of Solomon. I mean, it's amazing. You'll be surprised and amazed at what comes out of your mouth after you've done active listening. Okay, number 4, acceptance of what is. Man, this is a tough one. Stuck in traffic. I hate traffic. Would you please find the accelerator, dude? You know, it's annoying, admittedly. Now, of course, if you're stuck in traffic, there's not a whole heck of a lot you can do about it, is there? You gotta accept it. Okay, so here I am, I'm stuck in traffic. I'm gonna do that thing that Barry Cahill was talking about. I'm gonna feel my hands on the steering wheel. I'm gonna feel my arms, my body. That traffic isn't so bad after all. I'm having a chance to do an open-eyed meditation here while we drive. Sometimes things can be a little bit more drastic than that. Say you're driving in the rain and you have a flat tire, right? And you know, God, no cell service, can't call AAA. Got to change the tire. Oh well, okay. I'm going to accept what is. I've got a flat tire. Thankfully my spare is good, or not. But I'm going to get out there in the rain. I'm going to get wet. I can accept that. It's not going to kill me. I'm going to change the tire. And then I'm going to be on my merry way. Accepting what is puts you in a place of much more effective and much more effective action than being angry and being thwarted and feeling frustrated. It's a really good place to be to accept what is. In the East, they call this surrender, and that does not mean wave the white flag. Well, okay, I got a flat tire. I'm going to have to sit here forever now because I can't change the tire. You will find some effective action to take. The 5th portal is inner silence, listening to the space between thoughts. And this is kind of like watching your thoughts, but it's taken it a step deeper. Inner silence is the essence of meditation. It's been said, when the thought stops, God reveals himself. Now, that doesn't mean you're going to see the man with the white beard on the Sistine Chapel up in the clouds. What it means is you're going to feel this overwhelming sense of peace. And intuitive flashes might come to you at that point. Inner silence, the space between thoughts. The sixth portal is dreamless sleep, and thank God we all have that every night. If it weren't for dreamless sleep, our minds would never shut up. It would just all day long. It's good to have that. Plus, this is the time when your body does its real deep repairing at the cellular level. And dreamless sleep, unfortunately, is not something we typically remember and can bring into our daily consciousness, but there's a whole thing about dream yoga that you can do, basically, affirming as you're dropping off to sleep, let me awaken within the dream, and let me be the director of my dream, so that all dream-like beings can awaken from the illusion. And this might help you to become a little bit more aware during dreamless sleep. You won't be thinking anything, but you'll be in it. Now, the seventh portal is what in the normal world is called death, what we in the unity world call transition. The essence of us never really dies. Yeah, the body gets worn out and it has to be laid aside. And I could do a whole talk on just this too. It's something we don't talk nearly enough, because there are traditions in Tibet, and Dr. Morris, who did all that study on near-death experiences, found that there are several common denominators of those people who were dead, pronounced dead. Maybe they were defibrillated, or maybe they spontaneously reawakened, some after a couple of days even. Tibetans even have a word for that kind of person. It's spelled D-E-L-O-G, and I believe it's pronounced Delog. They have volumes of accounts from people who have been dead and reawakened. And there are several things that are in common with all these experiences, but the one that you need to know today, that this is news you can use here, they all go through what they call a tunnel of light, or like a star. It's a big, big, bright light. And in Buddhist tradition, this is called your original face. I think that's a quaint way of saying this is the real you. This is your spirit. You are now meeting face to face with who you truly are at your essence. And what you need to do at that moment is to joyfully, lovingly, and with all the gratitude you have, merge with that light. And that will virtually assure you a good afterlife, according to these wisdom traditions. Okay? So let's get back to the here and now. How do we deepen our presence? By having a meditation practice, I think, is the best way. And I think most of you here probably do. And if you don't, that's fine. You don't have to make it a formal sit-down thing, take the phone off the hook, or, silence your phone, or put the earplugs in. But if you can, if you have the time and you can, that's great. And again, meditation is not spacing out, or reverie, or thinking about your to-do list. It is not a creative stream of consciousness. That would be like surfing the waves. We want to dive deep into the ocean. And how do we do that? By just watching our thoughts, feeling our bodies, thinking a mantra if that helps you, and then letting the space between the thoughts get longer and longer. Imagine you'd been living your entire life in a cave. And this cave is in a strange place. It's behind a waterfall. And all day long, all you can hear is... And all you can see is a veil of water and the sides of the cave. And imagine one day, for some reason, maybe they build a dam upstream, or there's been a drought, but the waterfall stops. And you look outside and you go, oh my God, what's all this? I had no idea this was here. What are those green tall things? Those are called trees. What's What's that blue stuff up there? That's called sky. When the incessant chatter of the mind stops, we enter a new dimension that is enlightenment. Even if it only stops for a few seconds, we feel that peace profound, the peace that passeth all understanding. Your divine essence lives outside that little cave of the ego mind. Now, we need the ego, we need the mind, we need the brain, we need the body for functioning in this world. But do yourself a huge favor and take a little time out. Have a meditation practice. There are some meditations you can do, like if you're sitting and waiting and you know your name's going to be called any minute, like at a doctor's office or something. You can sit there with your eyes open and just watch your thoughts. But if you can have a formal meditation practice, that's even better. So, final thoughts, and I got to wrap it up here. I'm going over time. Ralph Waldo Emerson had this wonderful essay called Self-Reliance. And from that he wrote, "The roses under my window make no reference to former roses or to better ones. They are what they are. They exist with God today. There is no time to them. There is simply the rose. It is perfect in every moment of its existence. But we postpone or we remember. We do not live in the present, but with a reverted eye, we lament the past, or, heedless of the riches that surround us now, stand on tiptoe to foresee the future. We cannot be happy and strong until we too live lives with nature in the present, beyond time." He wrote this in the 1830s. This concept has been around a long time, clock calendar time. So always remember, you are enlightened. Feel into the body, breathe consciously, watch your thoughts, and be attentive in all that you do. Give it your full attention, give it your best shot. And when distracted, emotionally or mentally, come back to the now by feeling into the body, breathing consciously, watching the mind, and being attentive in all you do. And with that I say, Amen, Namaste.